She entered the dealership to purchase a vehicle. He informed her that her presence was not desired. The following day, the apparition of her husband appeared outside. Pam Bondi never intended to draw attention to herself. Not like that. It was a Tuesday, a day like any other, yet filled with untold stories waiting to unfold. Warm and breezy, it was one of those Miami days that invited you to linger and savor the journey home. She donned a cream-hued blazer atop a soft blue blouse. Simple yet polished, assured and poised. Her heels made a gentle sound as she entered through the glass doors of one of the city's most exclusive car dealerships, nestled between a sleek furniture showroom and an upscale espresso bar. Only her, without cameras or any help. She didn't want a salesperson hurrying her along or someone bombarding her with statistics about horsepower or leather stitching. She had thoroughly investigated. What she required was a person of subtlety, someone capable of assisting her in selecting a personalized birthday present for her husband, a man of few words yet who radiated joy like a child in the presence of anything that had wheels and power. Greg had a fondness for his cars that mirrored his views on politics. Timeless, refined, and distinctly American. She halted beside a sleek black Bentley showcased on an elevated platform. Her phone vibrated softly. She brushed it aside. A young receptionist seated behind the glass desk glanced up, hesitated for a moment, then reached for a sleek, wireless phone and whispered something inaudibly. Pam remained oblivious. Her fingers traced the stitching of the driver's seat, her mind wandering as she envisioned her husband's response upon seeing the car. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the silence. "Excuse me, is there anything I can assist you with?" The voice was youthful, masculine, monotone, and courteous. Pam pivoted. "Indeed, I was looking to discuss a custom order with someone. I came across your phantom build options online and I'm interested in creating something special for my husband's birthday. I see you and I recognize you." That brought her to a halt. Pam observed him intently. He appeared to be in his late 20s with hair closely shaved on the sides, wearing a navy polo adorned with the dealership's embroidered logo. A change flickered in his gaze. The cheerful demeanor of customer service had vanished. What took its place wasn't exactly anger, yet it lacked warmth as well. "Beg your pardon?" she inquired, composed yet wary. He surveyed the surroundings briefly before inching closer, his voice dropping to a whisper meant solely for her ears. "Are you Pam Bondi? Are you from Florida? The team representing Trump in legal matters?" She gave a slow nod. "We regret to inform you that we maintain the right to decline service. This dealership embodies a unique culture and caters to a distinct clientele. We hold a strong commitment to embracing inclusion, fostering tolerance, and celebrating diversity." Pam inclined her head just a touch. "So, how does that leave me out of the equation?" The young man remained steadfast. "Certain associations you have do not reflect the principles we uphold. In the past, we've encountered clients who have voiced their unease when specific political figures make their presence known here. Our goal is to uphold a secure environment." "Is this a secure environment?" Pam blinked, her surprise overshadowing any trace of anger. For a moment, it felt surreal, as if someone were delivering a line they had practiced yet struggled to fully embrace. Yet, he was serious. "Are you implying that I don't belong here?" she inquired. "What I'm trying to convey," he responded, "is that we would appreciate it if you chose to take your business elsewhere." Other patrons had started to cast their eyes in that direction. The stillness enveloped the room, thick and palpable, as if the very atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. Pam's gaze roamed the room, her lips tightly sealed. She remained silent, refraining from any outburst or dispute, simply nodding gently before she turned towards the glass doors. Her heels tapped softly against the marble floor once more. She kept her gaze forward. Outside, she inhaled deeply. The Florida humidity enveloped her, yet her expression remained unruffled. She delved into her purse, retrieved her phone, and made her way to her car. She remained composed. She refrained from tweeting. She simply drove off. Unbeknownst to her, Greg, her husband, had a scheme in place that would completely alter the course of events. Greg Bondi had settled in at home by the time Pam entered through the door. Their home was positioned just beyond Kroll Gables, nestled behind a line of majestic palms, featuring expansive windows and floors that echoed with a click under the weight of heels. In the kitchen, he poured a glass of iced tea, his sleeves rolled up, ready for the task at hand. The man seldom elevated his tone except when a game was in progress or when a jack on a car was precariously positioned. She placed her bag on the entry table. He remarked, not bothering to glance up, "You're back early." Pam paused for a moment, removed her shoes, and then entered the kitchen. Indeed, a shift in direction. Greg turned, his expression transforming in an instant. "What transpired?" She took a deep breath, rested against the counter, and shared her thoughts with him. Each word, each glance. The expression lingers vividly in her thoughts. A particular culture, a secure environment, clients conveyed unease. Greg remained motionless like a statue save for the gradual clenching of his hand around the glass. He remained silent. That was not his approach. Upon her completion, he cast his gaze downward at the counter for a brief moment. Then he inquired, "Did you catch the name of the person who mentioned it?" No name tag, yet tall and youthful, likely no older than 28. Greg's jaw shifted slightly as if he were mulling over an idea. Did he elevate his tone? He inquired. No, he maintained a subtle tone as if he were sharing something worthwhile. Greg gave a single nod. Excellent, that enhances the clarity. Pam arched an eyebrow. Is there a cleaner available? He made his way to the living room, casually grabbing his phone as he passed by. She trailed behind. Greg, let's not turn this into a big deal. I shall not. He paused, glancing over his shoulder at her. But I'm not going to allow some young cashier with an attitude and a corporate badge to make you feel like you strolled into a biker bar wearing the wrong colors. Pam offered a subtle smirk. I am capable of handling my own struggles. Indeed, he remarked. You stepped out with confidence in your stride. That exceeds what many would have accomplished. He navigated through his list of contacts, hesitated for a moment, and then selected one. Pam rested against the doorway. Whom are you reaching out to? Greg activated the speakerphone. A voice resonated from the other end. Maxwell Imports. This is Devin. Devin, Greg remarked. It is Greg Bondi. Devin's voice immediately shifted in tone. Greg, it's been ages since I last heard from you. Do you still have that ghost I arranged for you last year? Absolutely, it's still operating as if it were brand new. Hear me out, I require a Phantom. Completely tailored. Delivery to Miami is required and it must arrive by tomorrow afternoon. Devin took a moment to stop. Tomorrow, Greg. Inform the factory that I am willing to pay for expedited service, the color obsidian black, deep caramel leather interior, walnut inlays, lamb's wool mats, and the complete rear comfort package. You're aware of my wife's preference for ample legroom. Devin emitted a soft whistle. Are you for real? Greg's voice carried a serene yet incisive quality. Absolutely serious. Devin remained silent, not inquiring further. Very well, I shall reach out for assistance. Is there anything more? Greg cast a glance at Pam. Ensure it reaches Palmetto Lux Motors on Miracle Mile without any detours. No delays, no waiting around. Unload it directly from the truck in front of the showroom. Ensure that it gets documented by someone. Devin let out a soft laugh. This direction is appealing to me. Count on it. Greg concluded the conversation, faced Pam, and slipped the phone into his back pocket. She crossed her arms. You're creating quite the spectacle. No, he replied. I am emphasizing a particular idea. She approached him with purpose. More deliberate now, reflective. You're investing nearly $500,000 to demonstrate something to a child who likely has no understanding of how financing operates. Greg gave a nonchalant shrug. I'm not doing it for him. He strolled by her, swung open the patio door, and ventured out to the poolside. The atmosphere was tinged with a subtle scent of chlorine mingling with the sweet fragrance of blooming jasmine. Pam remained inside, her arms crossed, caught in a moment of indecision between laughter and exasperation. Yet, beneath the surface, she grasped the truth. It was never about settling scores. It transcended politics entirely. It revolved around one's standing. About demonstrating that dignity does not equate to vulnerability. However, that was just part of the whole story. By the following afternoon, the events at that dealership would ripple far beyond the local scene. It was on the verge of transcending Miami. The following morning arrived with a serene stillness, broken only by the gentle clinking of coffee cups in the kitchen. Pam perched at the breakfast bar, her fingers gliding over the screen as she sifted through emails. Her phone remained largely quiet throughout the night. Silence prevails, devoid of notifications, breaking news, or online chatter. Exactly as she envisioned. Greg had stepped out for a meeting, but not without first leaving a small handwritten note on the counter. Allow them to reveal their true selves. We will reveal our true selves to them. Wow. She offered a subtle smile at the words, carefully folded the note, and placed it in her wallet. Pam had been here before. She had endured a barrage of insults. A clever twist, a steadfast supporter, a merchant, a warrior. The outcome varied with the day's events and the prevailing news cycle. Yet, this was unlike anything else. Not due to the insult itself, but rather because of the nonchalant manner in which it was delivered. It felt as though she was being evaluated before she had the chance to settle in. And that smoldered in a still corner within her. She cast a quick look at the clock, noting it was 11:03 a.m. She had no expectations, yet the quietness around her stirred a sense of discomfort. Not fearful, merely conscious. Suddenly her phone buzzed with a vibration. A note from Greg. Take a moment to check out the Palmetto Lux Instagram in roughly 5 minutes. Her brow furrowed in discontent. What is he doing? She launched the application. The dealership's account primarily featured showroom images, monthly sales promotions, and highlights of the staff. Yet at the tube, a crimson circle throbbed around their silhouette. They were broadcasting in real time. She rapped gently. The camera wobbled initially, gripped by a youthful staff member positioned outside the glass entrance. The broadcast was already in full swing. A massive truck was reversing towards the entrance, accompanied by 2 dealership employees who appeared bewildered. One of them, Pam recognized, was the same young manager from the previous day. The live comments began to pour in. What's the reason for unloading in the front? Could that be a phantom? Who owns this car? Check out the wheels on that beauty. The rear of the truck swung open with a soft hiss. Out glided a jet black Rolls-Royce Phantom, its sleek form shimmering under the Florida sun as if crafted from oil and glass. No dealership sticker, no test drive tag. The dish was already arranged on the plate. The name tag affixed to the windshield indicated that it was for Mr. Greg Bondi, with payment completed in full. There was an absence of press releases, no spokesperson to be found, no signs of anger, only the act of delivery itself. The lens captured another fleeting moment of the young manager. His complexion was ashen. His lips remained still. Another staff member leaned in, murmured something, and his shoulders tensed. A voice from the shadows inquired, who placed that order? The lens shifted focus as a gleaming silver sedan glided into the parking lot, settling in behind the truck. A figure emerged from the shadows. Greg. He wore a dark jacket, sunglasses shielding his eyes, his expression a mystery. He neither waved nor smiled. He casually approached the car, swung the door open, settled into the seat, and made a few adjustments as if it were second nature to him. The young manager approached, visibly hesitant about how to express himself. The microphone on the phone hardly picked it up. Are you here to meet someone? He inquired. Greg averted his gaze entirely. He adjusted the rearview mirror, then replied with a calm demeanor, No, I'm just here to remind you of the one you chose to turn away. The live feed abruptly ceased moments later. Pam gazed at the screen, utterly at a loss for words. Her phone buzzed once more, this time filled with messages. Acquaintances, relatives, classmates from legal studies, and even journalists she hadn't interacted with in ages. Was that your spouse? Did they actually send you away yesterday? This is gaining immense popularity. She placed the phone aside and reached for her coffee. Silence prevails and the post remains unseen. She sipped quietly, her gaze fixed on the garden beyond. Greg made his way back 2 hours later. He placed the keys softly on the counter as if to emphasize his point. Pam cast her gaze upon him. It had a touch of drama. He grinned. That was certainly how they brushed you aside. She remained silent, yet neither anticipated the rapid spread of that video or the tempest that was soon to unfold in the online realm. As the afternoon wore on, the clip found its way to Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and several group chats that Pam would never join. It was shared again, accompanied by unsteady remarks, biting memes, and even slowed-down clips of Greg's response, labeled with phrases like, the coldest line of the year. Pam remained silent, her presence speaking volumes. Others spoke on her behalf. In the meantime, the dealership made efforts to tidy up the situation. Their Instagram fell silent. Comments have been disabled. The initial broadcast was removed within hours, yet the damage had already been done. Duplicates were abundant. A local blogger penned a brief article titled, Miami Luxury Dealer Refuses Conservative Figure, Gets Delivered a Phantom in Return, and it was gaining traction rapidly. Within the dealership, concealed by the tinted glass, the atmosphere had changed abruptly. Aidan Brody, the young manager, paced restlessly within the confines of his office. He was filled with a deep sense of unease. He felt a deep sense of fear. He had deviated from the plan. The dealership maintained a neutral position on political matters. His remark to Pam was intimate, and now it was on the verge of costing them dearly. A senior executive from their parent company had already reached out twice. What leads you to that conclusion? She shouted over the speakerphone. Aidan stammered, I was trying to protect the space. She stirs up debate. I believed it would evoke a sense of discomfort in others. Did you really think that? She broke. Did you really believe you could represent the whole company? Aidan, you really don't think things through. You implement the policy. Your statement has now placed us in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. He massaged his temples. I was unaware of her husband's identity. I was taken aback when he showed up with a $500,000 car, leaving it right on our front steps. Indeed. So here's the thing. We didn't either. She ended the call. In the showroom, the staff exchanged hushed conversations. Patrons continued to enter, feigning indifference, yet stealing furtive glances at the apparition now stationed across the street. It remained untouched since it was delivered. A handful of employees began to share hush jokes behind the coffee bar. She was thrown out one day and then let go of her rolls the next. She held onto it firmly. Her spouse did. It's all the same. That's true affection, my friend. Aiden sank into his chair, his gaze fixed on the screen of his computer. He crafted an email apology in 3 distinct styles before ultimately abandoning the effort across town. Pam and Greg found themselves once more on their patio, enjoying the familiar surroundings. I ought to have anticipated it, she remarked. I've been a fixture in the political landscape for years. There's always a voice chiming in. Greg reclined, allowing the twilight to envelop them. That's not the focus. She cast a fleeting look in his direction. Greg pressed on. Individuals may dislike your perspectives and oppose your decisions. However, when a child in a branded polo assumes it's his responsibility to control access to a showroom, he's not truly taking a stand. He's putting on quite a show. Pam gazed at the glass cradled in her hand. Yet, I found myself reluctant to seek the spotlight. This entire situation seems rather trivial. Greg tilted his head ever so slightly. What's truly trivial is facing humiliation simply for being oneself. She remained silent. There was no necessity for her to do so. Within, the news was beginning to sting. A reporter from Fort Lauderdale was seeking a quote. Conservative bloggers were framing the narrative as evidence of bias within the industry. A handful even proposed boycotts, though Pam privately scoffed at those ideas. She had no desire for retribution. She had no intention of playing the martyr. She simply wished to purchase a birthday car for her husband. That was the most painful part. What about Greg? Though unspoken, the gesture was rooted more in respect than in any desire for revenge. A reminder that you have company in this journey. I perceive your presence. I safeguard you. Later that night, he reached for his phone and sent another message to Devin, the broker. Thank you very much. The delivery was flawless. Refrain from making any public statements. This was not a publicity stunt. Devin responded, acknowledged. Just a heads up, that clip is really gaining traction. Greg responded, let it be. As the online world took on the role of mediator and the dealership worked frantically out of sight, a significant transformation was quietly unfolding. And not solely in the digital realm. All eyes were on the unfolding situation and opinions were sharply divided. The next morning, Pamito Lux Motors commenced operations at 10 a.m. keen as ever. Yet, the vibe felt distinct. Customers were not merely entering to look around or inquire about warranty extensions. They scanned the surroundings, murmuring to one another, inquiring, is this the location from the video? 2 young men in their 20s entered, sporting aviator sunglasses and cargo shorts. Not quite the usual customers for a dealership that requires a minimum inventory of $300,000. They approached the front desk and inquired, excuse me, where can I find the Phantom from the clip? The receptionist offered a hesitant smile. The vehicle has already been relocated. Curse it, one of them whispered. It would have been fascinating to witness it. They departed without so much as picking up a brochure. Within the confines of the manager's office, Aiden Brody found himself in a downward spiral. The corporate email thread had expanded overnight, filled with terms such as liability, brand damage, and client discrimination ricocheting among executives. A request has come in from the legal department for a complete transcript of all client interactions from the previous week. The general manager of the dealership, an older gentleman named Trent, who typically preferred to remain in the shadows, finally entered Aiden's office and shut the door behind him. Share with me the precise words you used when speaking to her. Aiden felt a parched sensation in his mouth. I informed her that we maintained the right to decline service as her presence could potentially unsettle other clients. Trent crossed his arms. You mentioned that to Pam Bondi in a dealership focused on client connections. She is a prominent figure often surrounded by debate. I believed you believed incorrectly. Aiden remained silent. He never appeared in a favorable light in any version of this. A customer approached requesting to discuss the vehicle featured in the video. Upon hearing that the Phantom had vacated the premises, the customer merely shrugged and departed in silence. In a serene conference room on the 18th floor of a law firm with a view of Biscayne Bay, Pam sat with her friend, Marta Gibbons, a retired judge who had transitioned into consulting. No cameras, no lawyers, just coffee shared between two women who understood the consequences of complacent power. Marta takes her time with each sip. Are you certain you don't wish to reply? Pam gave a slight shake of her head. When I speak, it ignites a battle. Then they assume the role of the victim. Indeed, there are discussions happening. Your perspective is desired. Pam reclined slightly. They're managing to complete the gaps perfectly well on their own. Marta regarded her for a moment, then gave a nod of understanding. You have always had a knack for enduring the tempest. Pam offered a faint smile. I've recently discovered the value of silence in terms of cost. In the meantime, the challenges faced by the dealership were escalating. A local station featured a brief segment that evening called, "Did Politics Lead to Pam Bondi's Car Buying Ban?" It lacked charm. The video captured the delivery truck, the astonished expressions, the vehicle gradually descending the ramp. The narration wove seamlessly through the intricacies of legal rights and the nuances of public perception. Then the phone calls arrived. Clients began to withdraw their scheduled appointments. A prominent buyer has delayed a delivery pending clarification from the dealership regarding its position. A high-end SUV that was set for collection remained on the lot, untouched and waiting. That evening, Trent convened a meeting with the whole team. We remain neutral on political matters, he stated plainly. Our business specializes in the sale of automobiles. We cultivate connections. That defines who we are. And whatever this might be, that certainly wasn't it. Though Aiden's name was never spoken, it was clear to all. As the evening wore on, Greg steered his vehicle into the familiar confines of their driveway. He had embarked on the Phantom's inaugural journey. Wandering through the city, I caught a few glances and received a handful of compliments from strangers who seemed unaware of what truly captivated them. He entered the room, tossed his keys onto the counter, and spotted Pam in the living room, quietly scanning the news with the volume turned down. Did you catch the Channel 7 segment? He inquired. She gave a quick nod. He took a seat next to her. Are you all right? She paused for a moment, contemplating. It's peculiar. The footage only captured the reaction, leaving the events within unseen. And in some way, that sufficed. Greg cast his gaze upon her. He declared it was more than sufficient. Yet the online world continued to buzz, and as Pam remained silent, a growing chorus of voices, both renowned and ordinary, began to emerge. In an instant, the narrative transcended the mere presence of a vehicle. It revolved around the dynamics of treatment and the consequences that arise when roles are reversed. Just 3 days post-delivery, Pam's name was once more making waves in the trending topics. It wasn't due to a press conference or any statement she made, it was simply because someone had tagged her in a screenshot from a private Facebook group. A woman named Karen Finley, a resident of Miami, shared a post about being at the dealership on the day Pam was turned away. Initially, she failed to identify Pam, but upon viewing the video, the pieces fell into place. Her post stated, "I was present that day." She remained silent. She maintained a calm demeanor. She simply stepped outside. At that moment, I had no idea who she was. Yet, I find myself longing to have spoken up. In just a few hours, the post garnered thousands of shares. Media organizations began to take notice. Out of nowhere, the narrative found new life. It had transformed beyond mere footage. It was a tale. A woman slighted, not through words, but through the inflection, through the presumption that she was an outsider. The audience was consuming it eagerly. Individuals started recording themselves discussing it. A few were in accord with the dealership. Some were absolutely livid. A TikTok video, cleverly stitched to transform the walk of shame into a ride of dignity, garnered over 3 million views within just 24 hours. Yet, Pam remained silent. Silence on social media, no conversations to be had. She gathered with friends, enjoyed a meal, and engaged in phone conversations. Every time someone inquired, "Will you address it?" her response remained unchanged. Absolutely not. Yet, in the quiet moments, her unspoken words resonated deeply. Companies started to make contact. A watch company sought to present her with a timepiece. A private car club offered a complimentary lifetime membership. A traditional research organization inquired whether she would be open to leveraging the opportunity as a stage for her ideas. She rejected everything. This was not a mere act, she explained to Greg. I simply wished to gift you a car. He grinned. Indeed, you gifted me both a vehicle and a valuable insight. At Palmetto Lux Motors, the repercussions were becoming increasingly difficult to handle. In a secluded back office, Trent, the general manager, engaged in discussion with 2 corporate representatives from Los Angeles. They had arrived to tackle the chaos. "We're thinking about putting you on administrative leave," one of them said to Aiden, who sat across from them, looking pale, his fingers tapping nervously on the armrest of his chair. "I made an error," he admitted. "However, this reaction is rooted in politics. I was only looking out for the store's reputation. You can't hold that against me." A female representative in her 50s leaned in closer. The image was left unprotected. "You have caused damage to it." The woman remained silent. She remained silent. She didn't capture any footage. And now all perceive her as the voice of reason. Aiden averted his gaze. He hasn't been let go, not just yet. But he understood that the signs were clear. With each passing day, the number of customers entering dwindled. Each day, an increasing number of individuals gathered to snap photos outside, eager to catch a glimpse of the vehicle that ignited the whirlwind. A man even suggested transforming the video into an NFT. At home, Pam found herself on the back patio with Marta once more, this time sipping lemonade instead of coffee. "Do you know what keeps crossing my mind?" Pam inquired. "What is that?" "If I had raised my voice or caused a commotion, they would have found justification to portray me as the issue." Marta gave a slight nod. However, that was not the case. Pam gazed thoughtfully at the garden. That's the crux of the matter. They anticipated a confrontation. They were prepared for the boisterous rendition. However, they were unprepared for someone simply turning their back and leaving. Marta remarked that was what unsettled them. At that moment, Greg strolled in, balancing 2 glasses of wine with ease. He passed one to Pam. "Have you caught wind of what that dealership is proposing these days?" She arched an eyebrow. "Enjoy a 10% discount for those making their first purchase. Promotional codes for social media. They are in a frenzy." Pam let out a soft laugh. "Price cuts won't mend a tarnished image." Greg gently tapped his glass against hers. "No, but perhaps silence will continue to shape yours." Yet, at that moment, Pam remained unaware that a national outlet was gearing up to feature a segment on the incident, transforming this seemingly ordinary moment into a discussion that would exceed all their expectations. It was broadcast on a Thursday evening, national television during prime time, featuring a 5-minute segment on a prominent news magazine program, introduced by that familiar, smooth voice everyone knew. What unfolds when a former attorney general enters a high-end dealership only to be told she doesn't fit in? This week, a serene instant transformed into a widespread discourse on governance, identity, and influence. The well-known clip of the Phantom's delivery was replayed, with the moment Greg exited the car slowed down, accompanied by a gentle instrumental in the background to emphasize the scene. A storyteller conveyed the tale as if it were a fable. A cultural commentator was invited to articulate the act, framing it not as trivial but as a form of graceful defiance. Another guest remarked that this issue transcended political affiliations, it was fundamentally about dignity. In a world filled with constant noise, we often overlook the profound impact of silence. Pam observed the segment from her living room, her feet curled beneath her on the couch, hands cradling a lukewarm mug. Her lips remained uncurled. She maintained a neutral expression. She merely observed. Greg settled beside her, sifting through a stack of unopened correspondence. "Is it unusual?" he inquired. "Excuse me?" "Observing your existence unfold as if it were a detailed analysis." Pam gave a nonchalant shrug. "I've witnessed weirder occurrences on cable news." He let out a soft laugh. The device vibrated. A note from a former coworker, someone who hadn't been in touch for quite some time. "I just came across the story. Your silence spoke volumes, achieving more than I ever could with mere words." Pam remained silent. There was no necessity for her to do so. In a desperate attempt to reclaim its position, the dealership released a nebulous statement the following day. It failed to provide her name. The incident wasn't explicitly mentioned, yet it was evident whom it referred to. "We strive to foster an environment that embraces inclusivity, ensuring every customer feels at home. We acknowledge that recent occurrences have ignited dialogue, and we are attentive to what is being said." The comments were disabled in less than an hour. Aiden Brody was discreetly relocated to another site. Greg always left the Phantom out of the garage. He maintained it outdoors, gleaming, beneath a tailored car cover, positioned mere feet from the boundary of their lawn. Occasionally, neighbors would pause to inquire about it, and Greg would simply respond, "A birthday gift from my wife." Yet, despite the extensive media coverage and the segment's airing, Pam never sought to transform the moment into something greater. She didn't leverage it for attention. She refrained from making it a speech. She didn't seek to conquer the online world. At times, the most impactful communication comes from quietude supported by deeds. Not everything needs to be expressed loudly. Not every insult warrants a response. At times, the most powerful presence in a gathering is the one that remains silent, prompting others to reconsider their words. That car dealership? In time, they will fade from memory. They will alter personnel, revise regulations, and even repaint their walls. However, that footage of the Phantom gliding down the ramp? That will endure. It was never meant to be a performance. It wasn't retribution. It was control, enveloped in luxurious leather and raw power. A gentle nudge to remember that your true character shines brightest in moments of solitude, far beyond the clamor that follows. Perhaps that's the insight we can glean from it all. The noise of the world is already overwhelming. Stand out by embracing a unique approach. Who opts for respect when it is not offered? Who maintains their dignity even when faced with attempts to bring them down? Pam never aspired to be an emblem, yet for an instant, without uttering a sound, she transformed into one regardless. And the world took heed. If this narrative resonated with you, if it caused you to reflect, pass it along to someone who could use the reminder. One doesn't need to raise their voice to make an impact. Join us for more authentic narratives that reveal the essence of character in pivotal moments.